Loading. Welcome to Access the Animus.
Hello everyone and welcome to a new video here on Access the Animus. So, have you missed the Isu language in the last months? Well, do not worry, because with the recent updates we have plenty of content for you to enjoy. In the first part of this video we're going to analyze the text coming from the Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok DLC trailer and from the recently released AC Crossover Stories fan kit. In the trailer, thanks to so many of you writing to us about them, we were able to find two Isu sentences with some known words and some unknown ones, while in the fan kit we found a folder containing a picture that helped us understanding the words from the trailer, so you can expect a full explanation on that. In the second part of the video though, we're also going to have an in-depth look at some more Isu language coming from the recently released Crossover Stories event, and more specifically the one from Valhalla, as at last the Isu language text that had been datamined by Andy Reload some weeks ago made its proper appearance, but this time we were able to give it a full translation and explanation. Thanks to these new additions to the Isu language corpus, we're also going to be able to amend some mistakes that we did in our past translations, and maybe, if we are correct, we're also going to try and define some new rules for the language. So as usual, sit back, relax, but not too much, because you need to stay focused, and enjoy this new ride into the world of the Isu language. We will start from the picture from the crossover fan kit, even if chronologically it was the last piece of the puzzle that we found, but it will make it easier for you to follow the translation. First of all, the picture can be found in the fan kit available on the Assassin's Creed website, you can find the link in the description, and it is hidden in a folder named by a Morse code whose translation means Ragnarok, so from here already you can see that there's something off about it. The picture is none other than the Assassin's Creed Twitter account header, but if you're crazy enough to zoom it on the top left corner, you will be able to see some lightly written words that once enhanced look like this. As it's been the case already in the past, we have our Isu text and its English translation next to it, and in this case we have a lot of words that we already know and some others that we can easily identify. We can start from our subject, as usual, which is do, meaning you, as we have seen a lot of times already. The verb of the sentence is abandon, which is a new word for us, but we can recognize it in the Isu sentence as this word is showing a verbal suffix in its second person singular present tense. Moving on, we can see another verb, as we have learned, in its infinitive tense, and as such we can translate it with to save. Another new word that will prove to be useful in the following sentences. We then recognize the direct object for the verb to save and the adjective tied to it and placed right before it. These words are pronounced as uns mas huha, and in their original form they have already appeared in the previous Isu sentences, so we can translate them with our future. We also have another word, again with its accusative suffix, plural form, which works as direct object for the verb abandon, and as such it translates with fears. And the last word is really similar to another word we have found during the Saint Denis mystery. This time it is in its genitive declension, as it happened with the word my in another sentence of the Saint Denis mystery, and as a consequence we will translate it as of you, that is, your. Now we have our starting vocabulary, so we can move on to the first sentence appearing in the Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok trailer. The first glimpse of Isu language in the trailer can be found when the trailer shows us Odin's son Balder in chains. As you can see, exactly in that moment these four words appear and we already know all of them. We have you as the subject, the verb in its second person singular with the meaning of abandon as we just learned. Then we have I, or better me, because it works as the direct object of the verb. And finally we have father, as we have seen almost a year ago in the Canterbury file. This way, the full sentence, which we would interpret as Odin's son asking or begging to be rescued by his father, would sound like, "Will you abandon me, father?" So with this sentence out of the way, we can move on to the second one from the trailer. The second glimpse of Isu text can be found right after Odin gets hit by the arrow, after landing on a Jotun as an eagle. In this case too, we know every word and we can easily and fully translate it. As usual, we have our subject, you, as we have seen before, followed again by your. Let's search for the verb then, and we can recognize it by its ending. Second person singular, present tense, this is save. Or more properly, you save, pronounced as vrurhazi. Moving on, we have another word, waherm, that we know pretty well. We can identify it as the root for words like true or truly, which we have found in the past already, but there is something different this time. As you can see, this word has the same suffix of the following one, and it's in its plural form. At first we thought that these two words had to be nouns, but if that was the case we would have expected a conjunction somewhere. We couldn't see any though, not at the end of the second word with quat, and neither between them with ul. We then decided to consider it as an adjective, even if this is the first time we meet an adjective in its plural form, and we didn't expect it to be declined with the plural r, as it happens to nouns. We had plural adjectives before, but they were personal adjectives like their or our, and they didn't gain the plural suffix. Being personal adjectives though, it could be that they behave differently from the normal ones. In any case, we translated this word as the adjective true or real, and we moved on to the following word. For this one, we need a little throwback here to make it more understandable. When we started learning the language some months after Valhalla was released, we learned to translate all the files available in the game, and we also approached the Canterbury file. This file was very different from the others because the language was written in its cursive form, and we had to give an interpretation to the single letters we met while trying to decipher it. At some point in the Canterbury file, you can find this sentence: "They must be thought as our instruments, not our children." Back then we gave this cursive letter the correspondence to this one, which matches the letter Y in English, but now that we have our new text, we kinda realize that this letter should have been considered in the Canterbury file as this one, which corresponds to the letter W in English. If we edit the mistakes, we can now see that these words are the same, and as such we can translate this as children. Moving on, we meet this word and we know its meaning because we have learned it in the Kabustan file, where it means from the site with the meaning of from the place where the construction is. In this sentence we can see it with the ablative suffix. Let's just leave it there for a second and let's focus on the short word that follows it. We have never met that, but somehow it gave us the feeling of knowing it already. As you might remember, the ablative case can be followed by prepositions, as we have seen in the Sagastone file or again in the Canterbury one. In this case, we thought it might have been something similar, and we noticed that this word is very similar to inside, which acts like an adverb, so we thought about the preposition that could be the most similar to inside, and thus it should be in. While playing the Crossover Stories event in Valhalla, we also got a confirmation for that, and we will explain it in just a few minutes. With this in mind, however, we translated this as in the place, or in the location, or in the site. Or if we want to be a bit less literal, we can edit it to in this place. It would make sense because the DLC will tell the story of Odin trying to save his son from the giant Surtr who kidnapped him, while also saving the other Isu from the Svartalfheim region, so this last sentence could be addressed to them. Or it could be more literal, and along with Balder, Odin could be set on a quest to save more than one of his sons and daughters. That remains to be seen. Anyway, we thought we could finally translate the full sentence as something like, "Will you save your true/real children in this place?" This morning, though, the creator of the Isu Language and game director at Ubisoft Singapore, Antoine, gave us a hint as per the interpretation of this sentence. He suggested us to take into consideration 4 phrases from 4 different Indo-European languages. Al posto di in Italian, an stelle in German, stithesi tu in Greek, and ki jaga in Hindi, and he asked, what do they have in common? What do they mean? How does that relate to an ancestor? And our answer is, they all mean in his place instead of in place of. And in our translation of this sentence, we did indeed have an in and a place. So we surmise that what we're seeing in the Isu language is another construction similar to the 4 examples that Antoine provided, and thus should translate to in place of, or more properly, instead, which he also pretty much confirmed. So the final translation of this sentence should actually be, will you save your true children instead? Which actually ties directly into the first sentence that we translated earlier, making it seem like all of this is pronounced by Balder and should be, will you abandon me, father? Will you save your true children instead? That's it for the text contained in the Dawn of Ragnarok trailer, and while we were preparing this video we thought of ending it here, but yesterday night, while streaming the Crossover Stories event in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we stumbled upon some new but not so new text, and we decided to add it here because it helped us confirming one of the words from the trailer that we were not so sure of. So if you follow Cassandra in the Valhalla quest, and I'll try and be as spoiler free as I can, you'll end up in front of a new standing stone puzzle, as always created by our old friend Brendan of Clonefert, with its usual inscription on the stone giving voice to his thoughts. In this case though, at the end of the English text you can find some Isu language lines, and if you followed us in the last months, you might be able to recognize it as the datamined text file that Andy Reloads shared a few weeks ago. Back then we did analyze it, but we were missing too many words, which we now are kindly provided by Brendan himself, right before the Isu text. Let's go on then and give a proper meaning to every word we have in front of us. Now the first 3 sentences show 3 verbs, all in their past participle tense, which is identified by the Isu letters to. As we can see from the translation provided by Brendan, they must be born, cleansed, and wrapped. In front of born we have 3 words. 2 of them are in their ablative declension, and at the end of the second one we can recognize quat, which works as a conjunction meaning and. While the third one is the word we met in the second Isu language sentence of the trailer, and that we have translated as in. We can see from this text that the translation was actually correct, and as such it will have the meaning of in within this text too. The first 2 words can then be translated as in mud and excrement, which not only is a nice picture but also provides you with the ultimate weapon, as now you can insult people with the Isu language. Please don't do that. It's pronounced Huawei, but please don't do that. Anyway, let's check the second line where we can see 2 other words in front of cleansed. Both of them have the sound h as a suffix, and their meaning, as we can get from the translation, should be in cold waters, or for the purpose of this analysis, with cold water. This is a nice detail because for the first time we were able to glean that maybe the h at the end of a word does not indicate adverbs, or better, maybe it does not only indicate adverbs as we thought, but it could also work as a suffix for a new grammatical case, the instrumental one. In this case, the subject has been cleansed with cold water, as in by using cold water, and as we can see in the following line, we have wrapped in the shroud, as in by using a shroud. These 2 words before shroud in their genitive case are the translations for of coming death. We know the word death already from the Sagastone file in Assassin's Creed Valhalla's main game, and as such this word must be coming, pronounced as guamundas. We then approach the last 2 lines. You're becoming pretty skilled at it, we are sure, so you can easily recognize the subject by now. It's you, and the verb in its second person singular, present, but also imperative tense is remember. What do we have to remember? We need to look for the direct object of the verb, and as such we have pain and despair, which is this very long word occupying almost the whole line by itself. Lastly, we know these two words. We mentioned this one, hundru, earlier in the video when we used it to understand how to translate this word with in, and it is inside, or in this case, within. This word, stulundihru, on the other hand, is a verb in its passive form, third person singular, present tense. Its prefix is the same that we could find for the word site or place, and as such we can translate this verb as lie from Brandon's text, or better and more literal to fit the passive form as is located. So yeah, the full translation of the Isu language in the Valhalla crossover part is born in mud and excrement, cleansed in cold waters, wrapped in the shroud of coming death, remember the pain and despair that lie within. Sounds really ominous. But that's about it for today's video. How do you feel after yet another full immersion in the Isu language? Are you enjoying learning it with us? Do you agree with our translation or not? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it, subscribing to our channel and turning the notifications on so you won't miss any of our future updates. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in our next video.